Now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, a darker shade of black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. Now available in paperback and e-readers. E-Steam Cancel Vacation. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a social justice, social media mob looking to cancel her in this all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Cancel Vacation in paperback and e-readers today. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. Racist white woman went viral for expressing her so-called black fatigue.
Black fatigue is real. I think society as a whole is there. We are just so unbelievably fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior, entitlement, the victimhood. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. She'll be watching her back for the rest of her life. Yeah, because that's not thuggery, hoodrattery, animalistic. This is why people have black fatigue. When you act like this, it's not normal behavior.
Now, in this video that went viral on social media, this white woman goes on a rant talking about how black fatigue is real. And as she talks about how black fatigue is real, she wants to say that white people are tired of all the ghetto and ratchet behavior of black people and are starting to become fed up with black people and their so-called alleged ghetto ratchet behavior. Now, this woman, what she's trying to do is the same thing that many people who were a part of groups like Comicsgate tried to do with the word woke, and what they wanted to do with the word woke with groups like Comicsgate and those who say that they're in the middle of a culture war is look to redefine that word in their own terms. Now, when it came to black people and the word woke was originally meant to say that black people's eyes had become open to the white supremacy and racism that was going on in this world, and as they were waking up to the truths as related to the reality of the white supremacy and racism in the world, they had become awakened to see the truth about how racist this world actually is under the system of white supremacy. However, those who were a part of this so-called culture war, what they wanted to do was go out here and redefine that word by their terms as related to white supremacy. And as they took this term of slang and looked to redefine it under the terms of white supremacy, what they looked to do is use it as a pejorative to define anything that they disagreed with or disagreed with their anti-black narratives. Moreover, what these racists wanted to do was also take the term woke and use it as a code word to define anything related to black, and that's the exact same thing this white woman wants to do as related to the term black fatigue. Now, the term black fatigue comes from a book that was published in 2020, and that book that was published in 2020, Black Fatigue, was discussing how many black people endured lots of stress due to the years of racism and white supremacy they had to grow up with. And as they had to endure all of this racism and white supremacy growing up in a white supremacist society, many black people like myself become so extremely stressed that we basically become fatigued due to having to deal with all sorts of racism and all sorts of aggressions from whites and non-blacks in this white supremacist society. And what's happening here with this white female is she's trying to go out here and do what many racists try to do, and that is try to redefine words in order to fit their anti-black agenda. And what this woman wants to do is take the term black fatigue and use it to create a racist term as a code word to justify looking to possibly do harm to black people. Because what many racists want to say is that oh, we are getting really tired of these black people as related to their alleged ghetto and ratchet behavior. And as we are getting tired of their allegedly ghetto and ratchet behavior, we want to be able to create a term to be justified in looking to do harm to black people. And that's exactly what this woman wants to do, is take the term black fatigue and use it as a code word for the motivation for being justified in doing harm to black people, and believe that, okay, this will be the excuse when we get arrested and taken to court. We can use this as an excuse to justify doing harm to other black people. That's what the whole campaign with this whole video is all about, as related to its attempt to go out here and redefine words, because what racists love to do is go out here on the left and the right and redefine words to fit their agenda as related to black people. And that's what they did with the term woke, and that's what they're doing here with this term black fatigue. Now, the real issue with this whole term, again, is not only co-opting the narrative, but also looking to push an anti-black agenda. And as part of that anti-black agenda, they want to go out here and say, okay, we can go out here and participate in the same violence that our ancestors did when they terrorized black people by destroying towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street. That's what the agenda of black fatigue is all about. But the people who are fatigued are foundational black Americans like myself. Because when it comes to the people who should be tired of this so-called ghetto and ratchet behavior, it should be black people. Now, this white woman wants to say that she's fed up with the ghetto and ratchet behavior of a small contingent of dysfunctional black people. But the critical question I'm gonna ask is, where did those black people learn that so-called ghetto and ratchet behavior? And if you look at the history of this country, most of those black descendants of slaves, they learned their entire culture from the white people who brought them here. So the foundations of all the so-called ghetto and ratchet behavior is not black people. No, the foundations for ghetto and ratchet behavior are white people themselves, because they were the ones who went out here and took Africans out of their continent and their countries and brought them over to America on ships and brought them here. And as they made them work to build their nation, what these slave masters did was teach them a culture of ghetto and ratchet behavior, because when it comes down to many of those American slave masters, they basically were mostly, as Mr. Superboy used to say, thieves, slaves, and opportunists. And the original Pookie and original Sharkeisha, they come from Europe. That's where most of the black slaves learned their culture, because their culture was taught to them by white women. That's what flies over the heads of many of these racists out here. They want to sit here and say, oh, this ghetto and ratchet culture comes from black people. No, the ghetto and ratchet culture comes from all the thieves, slaves, and the thieves and opportunists who came from Europe. All those thieves and opportunists, because many of those people who came to America, they were the rejects of English and French and other societies. They were the people from the bottom of that world, and they came to America because they wanted an opportunity at something better, because they were at the bottom of their society. So the ghetto and ratchet behavior, it has a foundation, and it has a foundation in white people. Again, the culture is taught by the woman in the culture. So this white woman sitting up here complaining about ghetto and ratchet behavior, if she wants to talk about ghetto and ratchet behavior, it all starts with her and looking in the mirror. It comes from the white woman because, again, black people, again, we came from African culture, and we were taken away from our culture, stripped of our culture, stripped of our heritage, and were forced to adopt a culture that was taught to us by white people. So when this woman sits there and says, oh, I'm fed up with the ghetto and ratchet behavior, okay, let's look at the roots of where that ghetto and ratchet behavior come from. Because if you go to any poorer part of white society, you will see the ghetto and ratchet behavior as related to the meth labs, as related to the trailer parks, and it related to the drinking. And again, this ghetto and ratchet behavior basically been going on ever since this country was created. And this ghetto and ratchet behavior is something that nobody want to talk about, because white society loves to keep up appearances. And as white society loves to keep up appearances, it wants to project the idea that black people are the ones who created this so-called ghetto and ratchet behavior. No, we didn't create the ghetto and ratchet behavior. It's rooted in this society from the day this country was becoming a colony back in before its inception. This whole culture was ghetto and ratchet, but the whole thing is with many of these white racists is what they want to do is project their feelings of insecurity and inadequacy on black people. And they've been doing this ever since slaves were imported to this country. They have been creating these types of narratives regarding black people. I mean, black people went out here and built this entire country for most of these plantation owners. Many of these people in the North, with free men of color, it was black people who did most of the building of this country. But what they want to do, because they are insecure about being able to have done, because they haven't done anything to build anything, is go out here and try to project narratives about black people being lazy and incompetent. And that's what they've been doing for over 300 years with propaganda like the Mammy, like the Minstrel, like the Brute. They want to project the narrative, oh, these black people are poor, these black people are lazy, these black people live in a ghetto, feel and participate in ratchet behavior. They have been going out here pushing these anti-black narratives ever since the day a slave came off a slave ship. And again, they do this because they want to demonize black people because of their insecurities, and they want to demonize black people and project all of their feelings of guilt, insecurity, and inadequacy onto black people. They want to project all of that onto us and say, oh, we're the ones who are participating in the ghetto and ratchet behavior. But I wonder what this country would look like if there were no slaves to go out here and build this country up. That's a critical thing that I'm wondering all about. I mean, what would this country look like if there were no black people? And I guarantee you it would look like a ghetto, but it would be a ghetto filled with white people who would be participating in all sorts of ratchet behavior like they did in the days before before people looked to colonize places like this. Because places like England, places like France, places like Germany and Australia. Basically, Australia was just a nation that was a full prison filled with all of England's prisoners. And all of those countries basically were crap holes, because the people were participating in all sorts of ratchet behavior, like sleeping with each other's wives or going out here and jacking people for their loot, as bandits being up in trees waiting for people to come by and doing all sorts of stick-ups. All the stuff that they said black people go out here and do in modern times, these folks were out here doing it in medieval times. And things were basically so bad, they basically sent all those people over to the Americas, hoping that if they went on this voyage, they could get these criminals out of their country, and hoping that many of them would die on the voyage. That's what none of the white folks want to talk about. No, they want to have this fantasy that they are perfect and they are so good. No, and the whole thing is they want to sit there and say they're fed up with ghetto ratchet behavior of black people, when in actuality it's black people who are fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior of white supremacists. We're fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior of white supremacists who hope to go out here and demonize us and make us the villain of their story. And we're so fed up with them going out here spreading all of this anti-black propaganda and all of this misinformation talking about ghetto ratchet behavior from black people, when in actuality, when it comes to many of those ghettos were not really ghettos. Because if you look at neighborhoods like Sugar Hill, Sugar Hill was a neighborhood built by foundational black Americans, and when black people get their minds right, they can go out here and build an entire functioning black community of working class people that can be just as functional. But many races can't stand that reality because it doesn't fit into their ideals of their smooth world. And this is why they go out here and look to destroy towns like Black Wall Street and Rosewood, functioning towns filled with functioning black people who had their own black owned businesses, had their own political system, had their own community of people doing things like going to school and going to work. And because these people cannot accept the reality that black people can be human, that's the whole crux of their whole argument. Oh, this ghetto and ratchet behavior makes them into animals and savages. Well, they sit there and again project onto them, because when we look at many of these white races, they are the ones who participate in all sorts of animalistic and savage behavior whenever they see a black person acting like a human being and not looking to fit themselves into a black box that's acceptable to them, because that's what this white woman has an issue with, because the only black people she sees are these black people who are like Pookie, Ray Ray, and Sharkeisha. She only wants to see those types of black people. I go in depth on this in my novel, Spellbound. A lot of them want to see a certain type of black person because their definition of a black person, like Joe Biden said, if you don't support him, you ain't black. And again, they want only a certain type of person. They want to see their reality as related to black people. They don't want to see the human black people that are around them. No, they don't want to see that at all. That's why people have an issue with me talking and presenting things in an intelligent manner, because it shatters their reality. And as you shatter their reality and present an image of humanity as related to black people, they cannot go out here and detach themselves and feel disconnected and believe, oh, it's okay for me to harm this black person because they're not a human being. No, what this white woman wants to do is say, oh, she's so fed up with ghetto ratchet behavior. As again, this is an excuse she wants to use to dehumanize us. And again, they hope to use videos like this to be justified in doing harm to black people, because they believe, as they've gotten the orange man back into office as president of the United States, they want to go out here and participate in a campaign to go after black people, similar to the lynch mobs during Jim Crow, because like those lynch mobs in Jim Crow, this woman basically believes if black people aren't fitting into my reality, I can't deal and process it. And since I can't deal and process it, their heads wind up exploding. They can't deal with the reality that black people don't fit into their boxes, don't fit into their reality, and they want to go out here and again believe, oh, I can go out here and do harm to black people. Again, yeah, there's ghetto ratchet behavior in many races, and again, it's all about poverty. And again, it's not just about the poverty, because a lot of people, they are poor, but their mindset is what makes this whole situation as related to so-called ghetto behavior. I mean, this ghetto behavior comes from a mindset and a frame of thinking, and there are white people who have this in the trailer parks. There are white people who have this even in corporate America. I mean, when I look at many of these white deviants out here, like the recent Abercrombie and Fitch CEO, who basically, again, was out here participating in deviancy and debauchery. And I look at guys like Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, why aren't people fed up with that ghetto ratchet behavior? Critical question I want to ask that white woman. Why ain't you upset about the Abercrombie and Fitch CEO? Why ain't you upset about Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, that's some ghetto ratchet behavior that white folks participate in, because they're used to, again, been doing that ever since medieval times, been doing all sorts of deviancy like that from medieval times. And again, American culture, basically, again, the foundational black American slave, they didn't know anything. They had to adopt the culture they lived in. And again, who taught the culture of America to America. And critical question I want to ask this white woman, because a child's first teacher is their mother, and the white woman is the teacher of America. So when you sit there and say, okay, ghetto ratchet behavior, that came from you. It came from all the Karens and all of these white females. They want to sit there and talk about the black woman being ratchet and ghetto. No, she got that from somewhere because she was a slave. And again, slaves learn from their masters. Again, when we look at the logical pattern that connects and connect the dots, it goes back to the white woman. And again, the white woman wants to sit there and say, oh, she's fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior, but don't want to say nothing about many of these white females who are out here, again, participating in debauchery and deviancy ever since this country was started. Want to sit there and, again, project onto black people. Again, we're the ones who are tired. We're tired of being the scapegoat for the failures of white society. We're tired of being the ones being blamed for all of the feelings of inadequacy and insecurity many of these racists have. We are fed up and tired of being the ones who are blamed for all of the problems that are going on in America that are created by mostly this white female. Because the reason why America is in decline is because the white female wanted to go out here and join and be a part of the feminist movement in her quest for hypergamy, to be aside herself with the wealthy. And again, this is what she wanted to do, but she wants to sit there and say, oh, black fatigue is real. No, black people, we are tired. We are tired of being the scapegoats for other people as related to their bad decisions. We are tired of having to deal with anti-black racism every day. We are tired of having to deal with people denying us an opportunity to be able to function in society. We are tired of having to deal with stress every day. I mean, every day a black man like myself, when we go out here, we don't know if it's going to be our last day on earth, and we don't know whether we're going to have to deal with the ghetto ratchet behavior of a Pookie or a Sharkeisha, or deal with the ghetto racist behavior of one of these rogue police officers, or ghetto racist behavior of one of these business owners who are foreign or non-black, or even have to deal with some white person getting in our face. I mean, this is what causes me a lot of stress and anxiety every day. You don't know what you're gonna run into, and you don't know what you're gonna run into, and if it will be your last day on earth. And you also wind up with a lot of stress, because if you do wind up going out here, it's a struggle to find a job, and you don't know how long you're gonna be on that job, because you have all of these enemies and adversaries looking to get you off that job, because they project their ideas of what a black person is onto you, and because they're buying into stereotypes that they basically taught themselves ever since the days of the antebellum South and slavery, these caricaturized, exaggerated ideas of a black person. You feel like you're walking on eggshells every day, and that type of stress takes years off your life. Takes years off your life because you have to deal with so much pressure. You have to deal with so much pressure every day as a black man or a black woman in some cases. I mean, you have to deal like you're, again, walking on eggshells in a minefield, because you don't know what you're going to run into out here, because either you're running into one of these white racists, or we're running into one of these spellbound, brainwashed black folks who want to fit themselves into the black box that's acceptable to white people. And you have to deal with their ghetto ratchet behavior, or their elitist, snobbish behavior. I mean, again, this is the type of thing that leads to many black people being tired, going out here every day, trying to survive in this white supremacist society. And what we see here is this woman trying to, again, redefine terms to weaponize them, just like they did with the word woke. With the word woke, they wanted to redefine our term of self-awareness and understanding of society, and weaponize it to go out here and use it against us. And that's exactly what this woman is doing, looking to redefine our terms and terminology and look to weaponize them against us, because what she wants to do is say, oh, when this black person gets killed, okay, it's a case of black fatigue. He was tired and fed up with all the stuff, but this same person wouldn't lay a hand on a non-black person or a white person who was out here in the trailer park with the meth or out here making the moonshine. Ain't gonna talk about that ghetto ratchet behavior. Not to mention, again, people sleeping with each other's wives and husbands. Ain't got a word to say about that, but that shows us all the low moral position of the white female, like the late David Carroll used to say, as related to the old African proverb, a race can rise no higher than the moral position of its women, and as your woman goes, so goes your race. And when we look at this white woman, we look at her moral position, and we see why the white society is in a state of decline, because the moral position of the white female has always been low. No, the standard for womanhood was elevated by the black woman, who was looking to shatter the narratives as related to the stereotypes presented about black women, such as the mammy, such as the sapphire, such as the Jezebel. Again, projections made to demonize the black woman, to dehumanize her, and they don't want to talk about how promiscuous and deviant this white woman is. And again, nobody wants to talk about this, but what they want to do is, again, redefine our terms that we define for ourselves, redefine our terms that we made about ourselves, because they can't stand living in a reality of intelligent black people, because the only black people that make them comfortable in their smooth world are seeing poor black people who are on their knees begging for their existence, deifying them, and begging for some crumbs from the master's table. That's what sates the ego of a white woman like racist like this. I'm not even going to say white woman, I'm going to say racist like this. A racist like this only feels satisfied when she sees poor, miserable black people on their knees, begging for their daily bread, because that makes her feel like someone. And again, she wants to basically take us back to the original ghetto, which was the plantation. The plantation was the original ghetto. And again, this was where the ghetto was, because most of the people were eventually winding up in poverty by the Civil War, because as the Industrial Revolution came along, the whole system of the plantation turned into a ghetto filled with poor people who felt entitled, poor people who after the war felt like victims of a war they instigated. Again, when it comes down to things, again, this white racist wants to project her views onto the world, saying, oh, we're tired of the entitlement, we're tired of the victimhood. Well, who went out here and came to black communities and oppressed them? Who went out here and destroyed black towns and black neighborhoods because they couldn't compete with them? Critical question I've got to ask, because again, most black people wouldn't be victims had you not gone out here and took slaves and brought them to this country. Most black people ancestors wouldn't be in this situation if you weren't going out here undermining the black economy like you did with the feminist movement and the welfare state. Most black people would not be in a ghetto if they were allowed a fair place to compete. And if we were given reparations, we would see where this entire nation would be, because with black people on a fair economic standing and given wealth, we would see a black community grow to be what it would have actualized itself to be. Because when we had, again, the Reconstruction, we had black people going out here showing what we could do, and had that economy been allowed to grow, America would be a much stronger place than it is right now. I mean, had these racists not interfered in black communities and their development, we could have had a second economy on the level of Japan or South Korea. But because of racists who basically could not stand the reality of having to see an actual black person being human and not being 3/5 of a person, that's what upsets people like this. And they want to sit there and talk about, oh, we want to go out here and say we're fed up with black people. No, the world is fed up with white supremacy, an archaic ideal and belief system, a religion of, as I see it, stupidity. The religion of white supremacy is what the world is fed up with, because the religion of white supremacy is the reason why this nation is falling behind the rest of the world, similar to what happened to the South in the Industrial Revolution, where the South was continuing to hold on to this old Southern tradition of anti-black racism, and as it looked to hold on to this system of anti-black racism, the world left it behind, and left behind this group of fed-up people who never got to hit rock bottom, and if they ever hit rock bottom, possibly would never get back up, because they're the ones with the entitlement, they're the ones with the victimhood, they want to project that on to us, and we're tired of taking the blame, and we're tired of hearing all of this nonsense about how they're tired of black people, when in actuality everyone is getting tired of this white supremacists and all of their racist and dysfunctional ideas and beliefs about life. Now, if you want to learn about how sadly some black people wind up fitting themselves into these boxes to become acceptable to racists like this, you can pick up my novel Spellbound and learn how to break out of the spell to get your freedom and learn how to be the black person that God wants you to be. And if you want to pick up some of my other books that show you positive and humanized images of black people, you can pick up many of my books on the SJS Direct imprint on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And hopefully it will open you up to a larger world of black people and a larger world of black culture outside of the ghetto culture that many racists want to shove black people into and fit us into those type of boxes. Hopefully, reading this book will, and the books on the SJS Direct imprint will show you a larger world of black people, a larger world of balanced, humanized images and stories of black people that will open you up to seeing the humanity of black people, and hope they see you black people out here working to create a better quality of life for everyone around them. And if you want to see me make more videos taking imbeciles like this to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this all-new Spinsterella story. Pre-order your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.